Today's lesson is about the disclosure of the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is a problematic topic because we've never really heard of any such thing throughout all of the generations. The wisdom of Kabbalah is the most ancient of all wisdoms. It goes back to the time of Abraham the patriarch, which is the 18th century BC, 3,800 years ago. Abraham the patriarch, he was just like anyone else in Babylon, in Ur-Kasdim. He was a Bedouin tribesman who discovered godliness, something completely outside of this world. And he wrote a book about it called Sefer Yetzira. The book of creation, which is actually the first book on the wisdom of Kabbalah. There were more Kabbalists after him. His disciples, his sons, his grandsons, and they all engaged in it until the second disclosure of the wisdom of Kabbalah by Moses during the Exodus from Egypt. Moses was a great Kabbalist who wrote the book of Torah for us, where he too expressed his own revelations in the upper world, but in a different way. Abraham wrote in names, Sephirot, Partsufim, while Moses expressed himself in a different language, the language of branches. Because everything in this world comes from above, from a higher world. As it is written, there is not a blade of grass below that has not an angel above that strikes it and tells it to grow. So there's a complete correlation between all the items of the upper world and the items of our world. In our world, we have a language and denominations and names for every item before us. And we can take these names and seemingly go up a level to a higher world and use these names to describe everything that happens there. That's what Moses did, and it's called the language of branches. That's what he did, and now we have the book of Torah that people in this world think talks about this world, about some history, romance, all sorts of journeys and incidents. But those on a higher plane, where Moses meant to write about, can see that Moses didn't write about this world, but about what's in the upper world, the upper governance, higher providence, the souls, how they ascend and descend incarnations and the entire upper system. That's what he really wrote about, and that's the second book. Then comes the book of Zohar that everybody knows about. It's the most well-known book on the wisdom of Kabbalah. Though no one understands it, still it's very well known. The Zohar is written in the language of Midrash. That's a different language, not like Abraham, who wrote his book in Sephirot and names, and unlike Moses, who wrote in the language of branches, using words of this world. But the Zohar is written like a fiction, imaginary and poetic. It seemingly speaks about this world and the upper world, but its language is of legends, called the language of Midrash. After the Zohar, we have many more books. We got the book of Bahir in the middle, and we come to the disclosure in the Middle Ages, in Tzfat by the holy ARI, who wrote nothing himself, but his teachings, or what's left of them, are the writings of Rav Chaim Vital, his disciple, who marks the beginning of contemporary Kabbalah. Then comes the time of Chassidut and the evolution of the wisdom of Kabbalah in the 17th and 18th centuries until it evolves to Baal HaSulam, who is our contemporary. Baal HaSulam wrote the interpretations to the Zohar and the writings of the ARI and expressed the Kabbalah in a contemporary language. He wrote the study of the 10 Sephirot, Talmud Eser Sephirot, as a scientific book, wrote it academically and very precisely, with a glossary, questions and answers. It's a complete textbook suitable for our time. But if we look at these giant Kabbalists, these pillars, Abraham, Moses, Rabbi Shimon, the ARI, none of them wanted to disclose the wisdom, except for Baal HaSulam. And there were many more Kabbalists that appeared between them. There were Kabbalists in every generation. But not one of them was so concerned with disclosing this wisdom to everybody. Only this last Kabbalist, he and Rav Kook, who was also a great Kabbalist who lived in Israel until 1935, when he died. They were both very anxious to promote the disclosure of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And there's a question, should it be disclosed or not? On one hand, and on the other hand, we can see that this wisdom is already here, although the debate continues. Should be revealed, shouldn't be revealed, and there are opinions for and against. But somehow, its disclosure has come, and it's opening, and the world comes and takes an interest in this wisdom. So we need to ask, is it the right thing to do or not with respect to this wisdom? Here we can turn to the ancient sages, not just the Jews, but from the nations of the world. Like Plato and Aristotle, who are mentioned in Rav Butrel's introduction to the Book of Creation. He says that they too did not wish to disclose their wisdom, be it physics, mathematics, or whatever it was that they knew then. This is what they wrote, and I'm quoting from the introduction to the book Panim, Mirot, Umisvarot, beginning with Indeed. Indeed, we find mysteries, even in the wisdoms of secular sages of the past generations. It is written in the introduction by Rav Moshe Butrel, in his interpretation to the Book of Creation, an essay, in the name of Plato, who warned his disciples thus, "Do not give the wisdom to one who doesn't know its merit." And so warned Aristotle, "Do not give the wisdom to one who isn't worthy of it, lest it shall be robbed." And the sages interpreted that if a sage teaches wisdom to someone who isn't virtuous towards it, he robs this wisdom and destroys it. So we see that not only with the wisdom of Kabbalah, but with all other wisdoms, the real sages who cared for that knowledge wanted to conceal it. Baal Salam explains to us why they wish to conceal it. Because if a man knows the forces of nature and how to exploit them, the question is this: will he use them for better or worse? And we see that with every discovery in science, the scientist is seemingly neutral. His knowledge in itself is the wisdom of the light, pure science. But when it comes to applying it, people usually do bad things with it, and even they end up regretting it. But this is what's been happening all through history. The development of wisdom is always directed first towards war and things that are bad for people. If so, it isn't wise to disclose the wisdom. But when can you? At what point? According to the sages, at the point where man has risen in his moral level, in his responsibility and understanding of what's happening, to such a degree that he'll be able to use this knowledge correctly. And we see that we haven't had much success up to now. And what'll happen next? Nowadays we're destroying the world ecologically. We're in a constant state of fear and insecurity towards the future. Weapons are being dispersed into the wrong hands all over the world. And we see nothing good coming out of any development, even in medicine. No matter how hard we try to progress, people aren't less sick. The more we produce media and culture and education and whatnot to fulfill people's lives, we see that people are becoming more and more depressed. Depression is today's #1 sickness. When people are in despair, they get into drugs, they kill, and they slaughter, they go mad for a lack of a better option. In other words, our development is really in the wrong hands. Baal Salam explains where it's all coming from. Our development is merely a will to receive. That's our substance. Will to receive. Our substance that evolves continuously. And the development of the will to receive is gradual. First of all, it develops into physical desires. Physical, that's what the body requires. Even if people lived alone, they'd still want food, sex, family, shelter, right? What their bodies need. So these physical desires were the first to evolve during the early generations of humanity. Then came the development, the desire for wealth and money. That's the second development. In other words, the will to receive keeps growing. This is the will to receive, and this is time, the time axis. Following money came a period that commenced the desire for honor and power. And we see that many more people began to evolve. Those who remained in physical desires went on to desires for wealth. Those in wealth went on to honor, and following honor came a desire for knowledge, for science, especially from the Middle Ages on, when this development began, from the time of the Renaissance. In our time, it's the desire for spirituality that begins to awaken. And we see now that people are coming into the world with a greater will to receive, a greater ego. And that's why all the teachings must be concealed, so to speak, so they don't misuse them. When does the will to receive spirituality appear? After a person is completely despaired with his own development in prior situations, and reaches a state where it seems there's nothing in this world to fulfill him. And then he asks, what's the purpose of my life? Why do I exist? What's this life for? What is the reason for it, and for the suffering, and so on? These questions already start to lead him to questions about the origin. Where is my life from? Questions from a higher plane, so to speak. And this is the will to receive physical things, everything that happens to us here in this world, and from here on begins the spiritual will to receive. They begin to ask about something beyond this world, about the reasons that are beyond this world. So they say that this is the time when the wisdom of Kabbalah should be revealed. Why? Because it answers those questions. And when it's revealed, it improves people. It provides support for them and it corrects them. Once a person is corrected, he's protected against his ego. And he won't harm himself. He'll understand how reality is constructed, and he'll understand this upper world. And he'll know the providence and the guidance from the upper world and how it works on him. Only then, after the wisdom of Kabbalah is revealed, is he permitted to open up all of the other teachings and to see how contrarily we did everything. Because then it's certain that he won't harm himself. This is why nowadays we're facing a very difficult period of universal crisis. In the past, every time there were crises, they'd be replaced by others. If there was an economic crisis, it was replaced by a spiritual one. And if it wasn't a spiritual crisis, then it turned into a cultural one. Not cultural, then technological crisis. They somehow kept replacing one another. And that's how humanity kept on evolving. But today, we've reached a point where no matter what experts you talk to, philosophers, physicists, humanists, scientists, sociologists, in the last few decades, they've all come to a halt in their development. And they completely lack the ability to envision what path to follow. That is, they're unable to see or understand or feel any ability to develop further. You can go to the internet, use search engines, see what's written there. It's common knowledge. Today, everybody has even stopped talking about it. The world's in a universal crisis. It has a lack of direction, complete disorientation. Then, say the Kabbalists, and only then must the wisdom of Kabbalah be revealed, because it provides an answer. That is, there's a need for it, and the wisdom is revealed according to the need. And so today, it is time for it to be revealed. Baal Salam explains it differently. He says that the world is actually like one partsuf. All the souls, collectively, are one partsuf or face called Adam Harishon, one structure. 10 Sephirot altogether. You know, our general textbook, our main textbook, is called The Study of the 10 Sephirot, because there's nothing besides that. That's the general structure of reality of the will to receive, and that's the whole substance of reality. And that will to receive is divided into 3 parts called Chabad, Hagat, Nihim, 10 Sephirot. And Baal Salam says that the first to be revealed are the very small kalim, the Chabad, vessels of Chabad, and they have very small lights of nefesh. This is a very small, very faint light, and that's why there are only a few wisdoms in our world. Even the wisdom of Kabbalah is being revealed in a very comfortable and an easy manner. This is Abraham's era. Later comes the era of the Kalim de Hagat, the vessels of Hagat, which are more coarse, more crude, a greater will to receive. And that's why souls that come into our world with such great desires, souls that incarnate into this world, are attracted to money, honor, and power. Following that, there are greater lights of Ruach in this world, and that's the era of the Zohar, the book of Zohar. This is Abraham, and this is Moses. Later, there are the vessels of Nihim. That's where they're revealed with even a greater light, a light called Neshama. And that's the time of the ARI. And this is our time with Bala Salam. We can see how this is happening according to the evolution of the wisdom, because this is the time for such coarse vessels to appear and to be corrected. It's necessary to have greater lights to correct them, and that's why the wisdom of Kabbalah is appearing. What is the need for its disclosure? What does it do? Bala Salam writes about that in the article, The Essence of the Wisdom of Kabbalah. He says this: what does the wisdom revolve around? That this wisdom is a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence in fixed, determined rules, interweaving to a single exalted goal, described as the revelation of His godliness to His creatures in this world.